Hey, what's up guys, it's me, back with another video. And today, I got something pretty different for you guys. So, I'm not going online with my club and stuff to go beat a bunch of kids online. I'm here because I was curious. Now, I know there's a whole bunch of videos of like, what's the fastest car in Forza? Cough, cough, Jag D-type, cough, cough. And like, what's the best car for the Goliath? What's the best car for Archway Meadows? Best off-road car, like all these different best, fastest, you know. But one thing I haven't actually seen is what's the best braking car in this game. So I went ahead and put an announcement in my club asking if everyone could send me what they thought was the top 3 best braking cars in Forza. And I ended up with a list of 77 different cars to test. So I went ahead and got the top 10 out of the 77 and a few honorable mentions. But first, can someone please explain how this little fin on this Mclaren MC12 somehow provides 300 plus pounds of downforce? Like, look at this little twig. This thing's at least 3 or 4 centimeters tall. But somehow, when I went to tune it, I realized that it's 378 pounds of downforce. That makes no sense. There's some wings in this game that are like bigger than me, and they provide less downforce than this little thing. Look, 368. That's unreal. Hold on, I got a car with literally a wing as big as me. You're trying to tell me that the little fin on the Maserati MC12 somehow gives as much downforce as this thing? Yeah, that makes complete sense, Forza. This thing is literally the Goliath of wings, and I think it gives like 300 pounds of downforce. Oh, and even the car I'm gonna start this best brakes video off with has a wing that's like probably even bigger than this. It's the race version of the Ford GT, and it gives less downforce than that Maserati little fin. Here it is. This thing gives like 62. It's not maxed out. It's 262 pounds of downforce, and this thing will take up more than half your screen. It's probably like 8 feet wide, 9 feet wide, and 6 or 7 Maserati fins long, and still it provides 100 less pounds of downforce. I'm mind blown. I'm actually shook. That makes no sense. Okay, well, moving on. So this is the first car to make it into the top 10 list for the best brakes. The Ford GT Le Mans Racing Edition number 66. I don't know the name all that well. There it is. Ford Racing GT Le Mans. So the way I tested all these cars, I upgraded all of them, tuned them myself, and took each one to the drag strip at about 192 to 195 miles an hour. It's hard to get it perfect, but that was the range I was trying to go for. Then I got the stopwatch on my phone and clicked it as soon as I passed the speed trap on the drag strip and as soon as the speed hit 0. I gave each car 6 runs, possibly 7 if I had a bad run and I like locked up the brakes or something. Then I gave it 7 runs. I tried not to do 8 because then that just meant that the car's brakes were pretty inconsistent. And since I was testing 77 of them, I didn't want to waste hours trying to give each car 6 perfect runs. Then I wrote each of their times down on a notepad and I retested the top 15. After testing those 15 in their unofficial order 6 more times, I recorded the top 3 runs for each of those cars and put them in this video, with a handy dandy little stopwatch in the top right to get them in the right order. So after our Ford GT Le Mans edition, we have our number 9 qualifier, the Dodge SRT Viper 08 Horizon edition. It's got a long name, but you know what it is. Here's the car, number 9, which explains why it does so well in Yarra Valley and the Surfer's Paradise Rivals boards. It got an average 195 to 0 time in the low 3 seconds. We'll see in a few seconds what it is. At 3.07, there it is. Here's going to be a replay of its best run, so you get to see the brakes glow and stuff. And yeah, moving on to number 8. Which, there's actually no surprise this car made the list because it's on every board for S2. Boom, the Pagani Zonda C. I personally love this car for S2 adventures, the Goliath, just free roam, except I use the X-Class version of it for free roam just because it gets around the map so quick. It stops quick, it moves quick, and it's got a lot of downforce too, so it grips well too. But yeah, this car was able to make the number 8 spot in this video, and capable of coming in the low 3 seconds also. Another thing about it is it's very consistent too. It very well could be because I use this car a lot, so I'm used to it, but in the 6 runs trying to get the brakes as perfect as possible, I didn't actually lock the wheels up as much as I did with many of the other cars, and came up with the exact same time pretty much for each trial. So here's the final replay. Came in with an average of 3.04 seconds for the 195 to 0. And now let's move on to number 7. Now surprisingly, a lot of members in my club mentioned this car, but I actually had never used it before this video. And it actually impressed me. It was number 7 on this list, but right off the bat, I was noticing that this thing stopped a lot quicker than other cars. Unfortunately, another car that was requested was the 311, but I don't own that DLC. I think it's part of the Mountain Dew DLC or 7-Eleven DLC. I don't know, but the 211 and 311 were both requested a lot, and since I only had the 211, I was able to test it, but maybe the 311 is slightly better. You guys gotta try it out, leave it in the comments below. I don't know, but I really think the lightness had to do with why this thing stopped so quick. Because it only weighs like just over 2,000 pounds or maybe just under 2,000 pounds, I don't really know. Somewhere around there, it stops incredibly quick on the Hot Wheels race tires, whatever you want to call them. And I think this is the last car in this video to be over the 3-second barrier with a time of like 3.03. Yep. So close, but still so fast compared to all the other cars. Up next, we got the Regera. Now, I kind of expected this to be on the list. I thought this was number 1. Like, when I first decided to do this video, I was like, oh, it's the Regera, because I use this a lot, and the thing that I love most about it are the brakes. I always feel myself stopping so fast when I take this online. I always notice how, like, people are stopping way before me, and I'm coming into a turn really late, and they think I'm gonna, like, just dive bomb them, but then I end up making the turn before them. This car just always amazes me with the brakes. So I was kind of surprised that this wasn't first, but at the same time, it definitely deserves its spot as number 6, with an average time of 3.01. Sorry, this is the last car over the 3-second barrier. Okay, so this next car, I knew was going to make the list, but it was a matter of where. Here's the Nissan Nismo Race Edition, blah blah blah. And it comes in at number 5. But I had to do something tricky with this car to get it up to the 195 zone that I wanted. Because if you guys have driven this before, you know it lacks top speed. It's got pretty good acceleration, amazing brakes, amazing handling, and amazing downforce. But good luck ever taking this to the drag strip because it can't even brake 200 miles an hour. So I had to tune it mid-run to get to the 195 zone that I was wanting to get to. So here I go, I got to 203 miles an hour, but I actually need to put the downforce back up so the brakes are as good as possible, and the downforce is actually going to cause it to slow down and come right back to the 195 that I wanted it at. And sure enough, these tires don't slip whatsoever. This car has just absurd amounts of grip. I don't know why they gave this thing like an extra 0 in the values of grip they were giving it, but this is insane. You guys also probably know it's the best car for Archway Meadows because of its handling. And now you can see it's also one of the best at stopping too. If only this thing were capable of like 50 or 60 more horsepower, it would actually destroy some people online and be pretty well known as one of like the god cars, like the Pagani Zonda C or something. And here it is, coming in at an average time of 2.96, the first one to break that 3-second barrier. Now moving on to the fourth best car, this actually did surprise me how it made it this high up on the list, but at the same time didn't quite surprise me, because I was thinking since it's so heavy, it's not going to be able to brake that well, but at the same time, this does have either the most or close to the most downforce in the game, giving you insane amounts of grip to press on the brake as hard as you want. I use this car mostly for the Goliath. I don't really take it into free roam or adventures. One, because it's X-Class. Two, because it's rear-wheel drive. But it's capable of doing it in like 820, 815-ish, and getting it over really quickly if I just want a bunch of XP or a bunch of money, or someone wants to race me in a Goliath. It's the perfect car to do it and annihilate whoever you want. However, even though I do use this car a lot, well, not too much, just for the Goliath and stuff, I'm pretty used to the brakes, and I notice it's still pretty inconsistent compared to the other cars, even though it still came in at a time of 2.85. Okay, now our third car, getting into the podium of brakes, we got the Aerial Atom. Again, this is one of those light and nimble cars like the 211, but just better and lighter. Or lighter and better, because this thing stops so fast, and I did almost no tuning to get it where it is. Now, I understand why it's a really good car, but you normally wouldn't take this onto a collisions adventure, because it stops so fast and it's so light that people will just come ramming you in the back and send you out of every single turn, which really is a disadvantage. This car gets to the point where it's too good at braking, but also too light that it hurts you online and you don't get the times you want to get, or should be getting like you do in Rivals. But here it is, 2.84. Now, our silver medalist, the Radical RXC Turbo. Now, I use this thing actually quite a bit in Hot Wheels. Because it's got so much grip, it makes it feel like you're driving on asphalt on the plastic in Hot Wheels, in the Hot Wheels expansion and stuff. I also tried making a rally version of this for the snow, strictly relying on the downforce, but it didn't work out too well. So, keeping it to the asphalt, this thing is amazing at stopping, able to stop in 2.7 seconds-ish. We'll see the average later, but just look at the distance. This is almost a full 50, 70 feet ahead of where the rest of the cars are stopping, which is insane. It kind of makes sense because it is a track car, but it's also crazy that you can stop like this in S2. When you have other cars in X, like the Aerial Atom and the Centenario, stopping slightly slower in X-Class. I just said that. Here it is, average of 2.71. But surprisingly, it's still not the best braking car in the game. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the Porsche 918. Now I'm going to show you the full all 6 runs with this thing because it's just so impressive. You can see in the tuning it says like 97.1 feet, but a lot of them said like 98, 99, 100. I even had one that said 95, but I think it's in the honorable mentions. This is the best braking car out of all the ones I tested, which is another car that I expected to be on the list, but I didn't think it was number 1. I use this for the Goliath, and I take it online into S2 asphalt-only adventures all the time. But I always use it because it's just all around good. It handles well, it accelerates well, and I do know it brakes well, but after doing this video, I realized this thing brakes like a god, almost stopping on those first white lines. Unlike the Aerial Atom, even though this thing stops so fast, it's got some weight to it too, so if someone comes and hits you, you'll not only brake for them, but you'll still be able to make your turn if you keep holding the brake, and not get shoved out too far. But at the same time, it's so good that it makes it great for avoiding the wall riders and the dive bombers who just want to come and use you as their brake, because you're already getting around the turn before they get there, and don't even have time to hit you. At the same time, it kind of even fools them because you're coming in and not hitting your brakes until the very end of the turn. And I mean, they're not hitting their brakes whatsoever, but then they think like you might not be stopping and they can't use you, and you end up stopping, and oh my gosh, I just noticed the brakes glow like crazy. That's gonna make a good thumbnail. But yeah, here you go. I'll just shut up now so you can watch the rest of the trials for this car, but each one is just more and more impressive. Okay, so there it was. Here's the final replay for it. Average time of 2.49. Not only did it break the 2.7 that the RXC did, it broke 2.6 and 2.5. It's just on a whole other level. So now we get to the honorable mentions. And that hurts my ears. Let me turn that down. Okay, that's better. So, as I was saying, we get to the honorable mentions. Now, I thought this was going to be higher on the list because I actually tested it right after the Pagani Zonda C and thinking their track car was going to be even better at stopping, but turns out it wasn't, but it still was very quick. Okay, there it was. Average time of 3.26. Just barely missing our top 10 list. Next up, we actually don't have a track car. This is actually the most street car-ish, like casual car that was requested. Now, I was thinking like, oh, no way. But I still tested all the cars, and somehow this did stop in like a 3.24, 2.23, yeah, 3.23. Jeez, I can't talk. And again, so close to making the list. Now, this next car, the Donkervoort GTO or whatever, is another one of those really light cars that I think had just good brakes because of how light it was. It had super thin tires, so I was like, oh, there's no way I'm going to get this thing to grip. And another problem about it is it was another one that I had to tune, like the Nissan GTR Nismo, to get it to reach the 195 zone. And it was a struggle too. I came from like way back in the dirt to get there, just to run like a 3.17, I think. We'll see. Next one. .21. There we go. So yeah, still very quick stopper. It looks kind of stylish, but I would never take this thing on an adventure, even if it does stop quick. Now our next contestant actually has a ton of power, the Hennessy Venom, obviously, It weighs quite a bit too. It doesn't weigh as much as how it looks. Like, it looks like it probably should be 4,000 or 5,000 pounds, but you know, since it's all carbon or whatever, it does weigh quite a bit less. But this was a very, very inconsistent breaker, where I was saying, like, I tried not to do 8 runs. I think I did 8 with this car, but still wasn't able to get a good stop with it. So even though it does, or at least can, stop quick in a 3.2, I wouldn't rely on it. Next up, we have one of the most stylish cars on this list. I really like the design I found for it. I'm sorry I don't know who made it, but it's probably in one of the top, like, most popular ones. It looks dope. And like, when you drop it all the way to the floor and stuff, this thing just looks amazing always. Like the chrome with the faded to black and the red. I love how this car looks, and I was happy that it also stopped quick too. I think it also is the heaviest car that I tested. But since it has some of the most downforce, it really makes up for it and is able to stop in a 3.18. Just missing the top 10 list. But seriously, like, take a second to just look at this thing. Whoever designed it, props to you. I hope you see this video. This looks dope. It's probably my favorite design. No, okay, I have one of my own designs. It's the Nissan GTR. I made a reverb version of it from Acceleracers, if you ever watched that. But this is like my second favorite design that I have in my entire garage. I like that. Next up, we have the Vulcan. So this is another one of the cars that I had to tune. It's also very loud, so let me turn that down. Okay, that's better. So something crazy about this car is that it has a total of over 500 pounds of downforce, which makes it stick on asphalt-only tracks. I use this sometimes in Surfer's Paradise. It only gets up to, like, I think S2 970, so it's nowhere near one of the best S2 cars, but I love how it looks, how sleek it is, and you never see one online, so using one of these is pretty ballsy, but at the same time dope, and people like to see these around. It's good at stopping too. Average time of, I want to say 3.14, which actually there was quite a few cars that tied at 3.14 exactly, so this might be the first one of them. Yep, 3.14, so this is the first of many cars that tied for this honorable mentions list. And next up is the last of the 3 cars I chose. The first was the Pagani Zonda C, the second was the Regera, and the third was the FXXK, for cars that I thought were the fastest stopping cars in the game. But even though 2 of mine did make the list, this one didn't quite, coming in at another 3.14. I just thought that since this thing was really light with like 1,000 pounds of downforce, that of course it was going to make the list. This is obviously one of the best stopping cars in the game, but couldn't quite break 3 seconds with it, or even 3.1 with it. But it's still overall a really, really good track car. You can see how stiff and ready this thing is to just attack the next turn or get going again. Now this next car is one that actually a lot of people expected to make the list, based off the requests I got from the club, but actually didn't quite make it. It still did get a 3.14, which is really good. It just wasn't quite capable of breaking that barrier. And also, there's nothing I really use this car for. I have a rally version of it that I sometimes use, but my normal one is X-Class, and it's not as good as the Goliath as like my Centenario, and it's also not as good as like short circuit stuff as my Zonda C. So it's just kind of like one of those cars that I have, but like there's not much for it because it's not the best in any area. It's all around good though. And that rounds up all the cars I have for the honorable mentions list. But one more thing I wanted to do, just for the fun of it, was see how fast this thing went when you try and stop in reverse. And it's actually pretty quick compared to some of the other cars I tried. 3.3 average or something. Yeah. Thanks guys for watching. Leave a like if you found this video helpful, dislike if you didn't like it, and go ahead and leave a comment if you think there's any cars that you think should be on this list but I didn't put it on. I'll go ahead and put in the description all the cars with the unofficial times that I have, so you can get a feel of where they are. But peace out guys, and I'll see you next time.